Okay. So, so welcome to. So today in today's session, what we do is we'll continue the discussion what we had in the previous session. So if you had any queries related, let me know. So then we'll continue the session with some kind of review related to ANOVA because we have completed this before. Okay. So can you confirm whether audio is fine for this session? Yeah, thank you, thank you. Start. So if you discuss, if you remember the discussion what we had in the previous session related to the principal component analysis. So for which the concept of the basic idea which helps us is the eigenvalues as well as eigenvectors. Right? Now, so we'll take the same example and we'll complete this in today's session. So this is the problem which we started the discussion in the previous session. So where we had two variables x and y, right? And what we are doing is we are trying to find out what is the principal component 1 and what is the principal component 2 between x and y. So why we need to have this the idea of having the principal component and principal component 2 is so which is the important variable, the feature in the data, whether x or y. And second question is whether we need to continue with modeling the data with a suitable mathematical model or any machine learning kind of model by considering both the variables, or if I ignore one variable, then also it won't be any problem. Right? If so, which is the variable which I can now ignore? That means what is the variable which plays a major role or the variable which is very important in the data given. Okay. Okay. So if you see here, so one thing is first to actually the idea here is for rather to proceed further to model the two variables. One is because here only two variables are there, we can take the help of the coefficient of correlation. Right? The coefficient of correlation, suppose if we take here it is saying 0.926. That means these two variables are strongly correlated. Right? Because they are strongly correlated, then we can take the discussion forward. Suppose if it is equal to 0, they are not strongly correlated. That means they are not having any relation as such. That means there is no correlation. Right? So sometimes if required, we can take the help of coefficient of correlation to find or to check whether these two variables are correlated or not. But if you see the problem with this is if we had more number of variables, then we have to find coefficient of correlation for various combinations. So depending on the R value, we can say whether these two variables that we have taken are having any relation or not. So this is one. So next, as discussed in the process of identifying the principal components in the order, principal component 1, 2, and so on. So the first thing what we do is we'll standardize the data. That is, so what we do is we'll try to shift all the points with respect to or in reference to the mean values corresponding. That means here by taking here x bar as well as y bar. So we have x bar and y bar. Right, we shifted all the points given with reference to this x bar and y bar. That is, here in this case, what we have done is we took x minus x bar from each x value. So that means here actually what we are doing is we are shifting this 2.5 comma 2.4 point with respect to x bar y bar. Right? So now here what we have done is we have taken this 2.5 minus x bar, 0.5 minus x bar like this. Similarly, y minus y bar. So this is the first step what we have done. So now we had the matrix X. So where this is the first variable, that is the first vector, column vector, and second variable, that is second column vector. Now in this case, if you see the dimension or the order of the matrix is, now we have 10 and 2 columns, so 2 features here. That is, it is a matrix of order 10 by 2. So 2 columns and 10 rows. So after this, what we have to do is, or what we did is, we have to find the important matrix. So there is maybe purely we can call it as covariance matrix or variance covariance matrix. Right? So that is what we have to do here is, so now so here 2 variables we had x, one is y, so other one is x, so other one is y. Right? So now we need to find covariance between x and x, covariance between x and y, and covariance between y and x is same as x and y because it follows symmetric property, and this is covariance with respect to y and y. Covariance between x and x is nothing but variance of x. Covariance with respect to y is nothing but variance with respect to y. So first we need to find this matrix. So I think we know how to find covariance between 2 variables x and y, that is summation x minus x bar into y minus y bar by n minus 1. Okay. So as we have been repeatedly discussing, so some people may suppose if they ignore n minus 1 and if we consider n also it's fine. Some people take. So some authors what they do is they will take n minus 1. So here no, we are not normalizing it. Actually, we are standardizing it actually here, or we are regularizing it. So no need for us to normalize it here. So covariance between x and x is nothing but variance, right? Because now if you see here, now this is covariance between x and y, right? Now suppose instead of y, if I take x, then what we get is x minus x bar into x minus x bar. That means x minus x bar whole square, right? X minus x bar whole square is nothing but variance. So that's why this is actually, even though we say it is covariance between x and x, this is covariance between y and y. So in turn, they are nothing but variances of x and y separately. Okay? That's why some people call this as variance covariance matrix. Some people call this as covariance matrix. Okay. So I think I'll increase the volume, right? So now we have the covariance, the matrix. This suppose this is the matrix A. Then we have to find that of A minus lambda I equal to 0. Right? So that means here 0.61666 minus lambda. This becomes 7166 minus lambda. These 2 values remains the same. And if we expand the determinant, we will get an equation. Here in this case, we will get the equation of order 2, that is quadratic equation. and if we solve the equation, we'll get lambda values. That means we'll get the eigenvalues. So once we had eigenvalues, then we have to use this relation Ax equal to lambda x. This is the basic definition what we discussed related to eigenvalues and eigenvectors. Now for a given lambda, we need to find what is the combination which where x is the eigenvector corresponding. So in this case, we will get two eigenvalues, and we have to find corresponding two eigenvectors. Now, whether voice is clear now, or is there any discreteness? So is it fine now, or any disturbance in the voice? Okay, right now. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So now, so we need to find. I think I am not showing that step. That is, this is what we do. Where we'll try to find eigenvalues, eigenvectors. If you require, I'll solve it on a paper and I'll share it with you. Because whenever we had the values like this, then derivation of the solving the problem to find eigenvalues, eigenvectors takes more time. But as we discussed, try to understand the process involved in this. So once we have the matrix A, then what we do is we try to find eigenvalues as well as eigenvectors. These are eigenvalues. Right? Lambda 1 and lambda 2 are the corresponding eigenvalues. Then for each eigenvalue, we have to find corresponding eigenvector. Right? So this is the eigenvector corresponding to lambda 1, and this is corresponding to lambda 2. So as discussed earlier, how we get eigenvalues, I think like the example which we discussed. Now we have to take the matrix A minus lambda I, and we have to take the determinant. Right? This, if we expand the determinant, we get an equation, and if we solve the equation, we get lambda values. I think yesterday we tried with one example. Lambda square minus 3 lambda plus 2 equal to 0, where we get lambda equal to minus 1 plus 2 something. So that's why I skipped it actually. So here, well, we got the eigenvalues as well as corresponding eigenvectors. So as discussed, now we have the eigenvalues as well as eigenvectors. So eigenvalues gives the scaling factor, and the eigenvectors gives the direction, right? Or this nothing but the line of projection or the plane of projection which we use when we try to scale the data. Now based on the lambda 1, lambda 2 values, we prioritize. That is, we have, after having eigenvalues, we have to put them in decreasing order. So now here we have lambda 1 and lambda 2. So from this is the highest, this is the next. Right? So from this, what we say is, this is my principal component 1. This is my PC1. This is my PC1. And the next is PC2. This is my principal component 2. If next it is principal component 3, like this. So from eigenvalues, we can have an idea with respect to PC1 what is the first principal component, second principal component, and so on. Very simple. Highest is the first one, next follows second component, next follows third component, like this. Right? Clear. Okay. So that we can we had clarity with respect to choosing principal components in order. Now, if it is something like we want to reduce the dimension, if we want to reduce the dimension, that means here in this case particularly, whether we have to continue the discussion with respect to two eigenvalues, or forget or don't consider one eigenvalue, so that proceed with only one eigenvalue in consideration. That means The question here is whether to continue the discussion with respect to two-dimensional problem or to continue the discussion with respect to one-dimensional problem. Right? So in the case as discussed, we need to see the percentage of variance that the given eigenvalue carries. Right? Depending on the freedom that we are having with respect to the model that we are looking for, so we can take a decision with respect to whether we can continue with the two dimensions or whether we can continue with one dimensional approach. Lambda is the actual eigenvalue. So here we get many values depending on the 2 by 2 matrix. We get 2 values. 3 by 3 matrix we get 3 values. Lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3. Okay. I hope that now it is very clear. So from this we understand what is the principal component 1, what is the principal component 2, like this. Okay. So next, to answer the next question, that is. So whether to go ahead with two-dimensional one or whether to go with one-dimensional one. So in that case, we go with this percentage of total variance. Okay, this is what we use. So the total variance is nothing but this lambda 1 plus lambda 2. Lambda 1 plus lambda 2 gives the total variance. This is 1.33. So total variance is 1.33, out of which the contribution of lambda 1 we need to calculate, that is 1.2840 by lambda 1 plus lambda 2. That means it is 96. And if we consider the contribution of lambda 2, then it is lambda 2 value by lambda 1 plus lambda 2, that is 3.7%. So now it is added. So whether to proceed with both x1, x2, xy, or whether we can convert this into one-dimensional data. So here we have to take a call. Suppose if my application, if my model is fine to proceed with 96.3%, that means I am ignoring the noise, I am ignoring the remaining percentage of the data, okay? Because this feature is contributing more in terms of the data what we have. Right? So if I think like that, then what I do is I will proceed further with only one dimension. Right? So with one-dimensional data, I will proceed further to model it. If not, then in that case I will take both lambda 1 as well as lambda 2. X1, x2 values, that is finding eigenvector. One thing is I'll request you to go through the previous set, but as promised in the last class, I can share one presentation where I'll solve a problem where it is clearly makes us understand how to find lambda values as well as corresponding eigenvectors. I think that I skipped that in today's class because we want to focus more on principal component analysis rather than finding eigenvalues, eigenvectors. So one is go through the last class, and I will share one more problem solved where let's try to explain how to find lambda values as well as corresponding x values, which is very important for us to understand the process. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Now I hope that is clear. So then accordingly we can proceed further. Once we have this in mind, then we have to transform the data. So where, as discussed, right? Now the lambda values helped us, that is the eigenvalues helped us to understand the PC1, PC2 and the percentage of variance that it contributes. Right? So after that, the eigenvector helps us to find us to transform the data into the new system, right? So that is here. Now if I consider to proceed with both, that is lambda 1 and lambda 2, then so this is my first eigenvector and this is my second eigenvector, right? So this gives my variation matrix. That is the matrix which helps me in the transformation. Suppose if I don't want to go with this second one, just I am okay with one dimensional, then so that means we won't consider this eigenvector. So then my transformation matrix or the variation matrix is consisting of this eigenvector. So that means it is nothing but, if you remember yesterday's the initial discussion where we had a data, right? Then we had a matrix of transformation. Now what we do is, by using this matrix, we transform the given data to another. Right? So where, if you remember, that is a circle. Initially we have taken a circle with 1 0 0 1, and we used a matrix 9 4 4 2, I think. So then we had the data transformed into new one where we are able to get the ellipse. That means where we had the scaling of the values or scaling of the vectors. Right? Now the same thing we do. Now this is the matrix which helps us for the transformation, where we use this to have the scaled values or scaled data. Right? So two options we had, because but in reality we will go ahead with only one option. If you are okay with the one dimensional, we go for this. If we have to go with two dimensional, we go for this. So once we had, suppose if we consider the two-dimensional transformation, right? So then this is the original data what we had, that is 10 by 2 matrix. Right? Here in this case, you can take exactly the original data given, or when later in this first step we have transformed with the help of x bar and y bar. Either you can take this or that. Then if we go for y into xv, that is original data set and multiplied by this transformation matrix. So this is what. Now, so this is the data what we had. Now by using this, we proceed further when we try to model the data. So from this we can have what is the line or the plane we use it for the transformation. So where it is y equal to, if we take this one, 0.678 x1 735 x2 is, so one transformation equation, and this is gives another transformation equation. Okay. Now we had transformed data, then now we go for visualization, then we try to understand, then we try to build a model on the top of it. Y equal to xp is just transformation. Now this is the original data, right? Like yesterday AX what we had. A is the matrix 9 4 4 1, then we took the x, then we transform. So x is the original the data set what we have, and V is the variation matrix or the transformation matrix what we have taken. In this case, V is we have taken the first case, that is we consider the two-dimensional one. So that is y equal to xp. So where we get the transformation matrix. Suppose if we don't want to go with two-dimensional, then we have, so the y, the original data set given, and this is the one-dimensional the transformation matrix what we have, corresponding to the first eigenvalue, that is corresponding to the first variable given in the problem. So then this is what we have. So that means now the entire data, now this is the data what we have, that is where we reduced this dimension. Right? Now actually it is a 10 by 2 matrix what we have. Now it is we reduced it into 10 by 1 matrix, where we ignored or we removed or we reduced the second feature, that is x2 is ignored in this case, because we feel that the contribution from x2 is 3.5% or something, which is ignored, which can be ignored. That's why we proceed further with this, and we can use visualization technique to understand the spread of the data. So this is how the principal component analysis concept looks like, or how it works. So I hope that this is very clear. So let me know anything. So final summary is, so if we do it when we implement or when we solve a problem, what are the steps involved in this? So one is the the x bar and y bar, and we have to recenter. Right? So where we did it x minus x bar, y minus y bar. Next we have to find the covariance matrix. So next we have to find the eigenvalues as well as eigenvectors related to this covariance matrix, and also its percentage of variability. Right? And here, once we had eigenvalues, we put them in decreasing order. From this, we can identify what is our principal component 1, what is 2, what is 3, and so on. So we can decide what is component PC1, PC2, PC3, and so on. So next we'll find percentage of variability to understand or to go ahead with dimensionality reduction. That what are the features that we can ignore. So for which this percentage of variability helps us. How to find the percentage of variability is, for each eigenvalue we have to suppose lambda 1 is an eigenvalue, then lambda 1 by sum of all eigenvalues is the percentage. Now on seeing this percentage, we have to decide, so what are the eigenvalues we have to consider, what are the variables we have to consider, and what are the variables we have to ignore. So once this is clear, then we will have the transformation matrix, whether it is 2-dimensional or 1-dimensional, depending on our decision with respect to the principal components which we want to ignore. So once we have V, then we will find new data set with the help of y equal to x. Once this y equal to x, then we have transformed data set, that is new data set, that is defined or find data set we have. Then we go ahead further with building a model, visualizing it, then go for various kinds of model building processes. Right? So that is the summary of the complete PCA. What is 3.459? What is that? So this is actually this multiplication of matrices actually. Yeah. So this multiply this into this. So we have to multiply this matrix 10/2 matrix with 2/2 matrix. So there were 2.5 into this plus 2.4 into this, like this. So this is nothing but a matrix multiplication, where one matrix is of 10/2 order, other matrix is of 2/2 order. Okay, I'll come to that. When we immediately after having lambda values, that is eigenvalues, we put them in order to understand to find what is our PC1, PC2, and so on. Maybe next slide. I think we have. No, this is actually. I think last class also we know this one. Sorry. It is something like X, Y, like maybe A, B, C, D, E, C, like this. We had 9 features, 9 variables. In the previous example, we took only 2, X and Y, right? So suppose we had like this, then we have done the entire process, right? Where we have a matrix, right? Then we have covariance, variance covariance matrix. Then we try to have eigenvalues. Yes. Suppose these are the eigenvalues. This is lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3, and so on. So here actually we had all this in order. Now after finding all the eigenvalues corresponding to matrix, now in this case actually we have 9/2, 9/9 matrix. The covariance variance matrix what we discussed at the beginning. So here it is 9/9 matrix. Why it is 9/9 matrix? We had 9 features or 9 variables here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So for every combination we will find covariances. So don't be scared of actually finding so many covariances is not that simple when we do it by using pen and paper. Yes, when we try to implement it by using any one of the tools, then it is very simple. Okay. So we had variance covariance matrix. Then we try to find eigenvalues, eigenvectors, and these are eigenvalues what we have. Now, as discussed, we are putting them in order. So this the first, highest, next like this. Right? Right? So after getting the eigenvalues, we put them in decreasing order. Then this is the first component. This is the principal component one. So this is next component. Okay. This is next component. Like this we had. Right. Right. Now, as we know, so of all the components of all the variables, which is the major variable, which is important variable, which is a, so my principal component is this. So next principal component is this. Next is this, like this. Okay. I hope that this is clear. So once we had clarity with respect to the PCs in order, next comes is we are looking for actually basic discussion. If we see at the beginning, we look for dimensionality reduction. We want to reduce this 9 by 9 into as smaller as possible, right? As smaller as possible in the sense, for me always I look for a 2 by 2, a 2-dimensional or 1-dimensional. 2 by 2 is fine for me, because if I had a 2 by 2 or 2-dimensional, then it is very easy for me to have the visualization. Just a scatter plot I can take and see how the data behaves, or even further I can go for 1-dimensional approach. If it is 1-dimensional, very simple, right? I had a line where all the data sets I can see. Right. So then to take a call with respect to this, whether to go with the 2-dimensional, 1-dimensional, or 3-dimensional, then what we do is, I discussed, we have to go with, we see the proportion side. In real life scenarios, will the proportion be not distributed? No, here also not distributed equally actually. You see here. You see here, it is not. Only thing is here it is say if you see here, so the contribution of this lambda 1 is 72%, right? How we calculated proportions, right? Okay, I will explain that. How 82% that I will share. This is not proportion. This proportion I'll tell how to calculate. This is, if you remember the earlier discussion. Now after having all the eigenvalues, right? So sum up all those. That is total variation. Total variation is this. I repeat. Sum of all these eigenvalues, lambda 1 plus lambda 2 plus lambda 3 and so on. That is this. Okay. So then this is the total variance, total proportion, total variation, etc. Right? So now what is the contribution of first eigenvalue in this? Right? So then 0.3775 by this 0.5235. Right? Lambda 1 by sum of all eigenvalues, that gives this 7227. Similarly 0.0511 by total variation. 0.0279 this. So this like this if I take 0.0279 by the sum of all eigenvalues gives this. Similarly 0.0230 by total variation gives this. Right. So like this we have. That means what is the meaning of this is 72% is the contribution from lambda 1 or PC1. 9% is the contribution from this, 5% is contribution from this, 4% is the corresponding to this, 3%, 2.2%, 1.6%, 0.75%, 0.34%. So from this we understand now. If you see 72%, so therefore this is my PC1. 9% next, 5% next, 4% like this. Okay. Now the question comes is, suppose your application, suppose if you are okay with 72%, that means you are ignoring other disturbances. That is, I am okay if I ignore the 28%, right? 28%, if you ignore also not a problem. If you decide, then you can go with only the lambda1. Right? Suppose if we want to see what is the effect of PC2 also, that means if I consider these two, right? If I consider these two, then if you sum these two together, then we get 82%. That means instead of considering one dimensional, if I go for two dimensional, then the contribution from PC1 as well as PC2 is 82%. I hope that is clear. How first one is 72%. This is cumulative actually. First and second together contributes 82%. Now first, second, and third combining all these gives 87%. Right? Suppose if I consider 1, 2, 3, 4, then it is contribution is 91%. Okay. So up to 5 it is 95%, like this. Now you have to take a call. Okay. I hope that I am clear, like what I have been telling. See, if I am okay with 72%, I will stop with this lambda1 and I proceed further and I go for transformation of the data by using the eigenvector. And if it is not okay, then if I take two eigenvalues or two PC1s, that means lambda1 and lambda2, then I see just 82%. If 82% is okay for me, then I will ignore all the remaining features. That's why there is no threshold value as such actually. So that is, you have to take a call depending on the application, depending on the data what you have, depending on the application that you want to build. Right? Whether your application allows to have such kind of noise in the data. Right? So that's why as such there is no threshold. Right? I hope that is clear. Right? Now you don't want to have take a risk, then 95% is your target, then so your data becomes 5-dimensional data because all 5 together gives 95% contribution. Right? But in general, we want to have data which is where the dimension is very smaller as much as possible. Particularly if it is 2-dimensional, it makes sense for us to understand the data very clearly. Yeah, I hope that is clear, right? This is one of the very good concept, very useful concept which you have been going to use in many of the courses further. Or some of you might have done already. Okay, right. Now the question here is actually this is what I think I answered this question already. Already we discussed this. How many principal components should be considered? What is the criteria? So the criteria is as discussed now. Right? This is the criteria. And one more, this is what we discussed, right? First two eigenvalues together explains 82% of the variation. And first three considers 87%, like this. If you are okay with 82%, then your lambda1 corresponding to the feature corresponding to lambda1 is your PC1. Similarly, the feature corresponding to lambda2 is your PC2. Or otherwise, if it is 87% that you are looking for, then correspondingly we have PC1 as well as PC2 as well as PC3. Yeah. Not only PCA, whenever we deal with the data, whenever we try to build a model on the top of the data, definitely we need to understand the data, and the domain related to data is very important actually. Even when we try to think in terms of the outliers, noise reduction, then also we have to see whether this freedom we had when we deal with this data. So that's why 87%, 82% I took from this only actually. So first two eigenvalues are two features if I consider. These two are contributing 82%, and these three are contributing 87%. Now this is nothing new. This simple example or simple. Suppose we had a team of 20 people, right? If we had a team of 20 people, right? Not that all 20 are equally important most of the times, right? So you will have the major player in the team, right? That is, he is PC1, right? Because I'm not saying that one is having more importance, but all a contribution from each one is as good or as important, but still one player, one team member may be crucial in your team. He is PC1, right? Or sometimes what happens is first person as well as second person together is contributing to major part in my project. That means these two are my PC1 and PC2. Right? So whenever you want to take a call, so if PC3, PC4, PC5 says I want to move out of the project, yes, no problem, because your contribution is 3%, 4%. Right? My PC1, PC2 are important. This is a common observation we have. Right? So same thing here. Right? So out of all the 9 team members in your team, whose contribution is higher, followed by next kind of thing. Right? So you can apply this now. You had instruction saying that you have to reduce your team with 9 members to team with 5 members. Right? So you had team of 9 members, and you know the performances or their contribution. Suppose it is something like 72% from the person 1, and 9% from second, and 5% from 3, 4% from 4, like this. And you had instruction saying that you reduce your team to 5, and if you want, you give 1 or 2 new persons in the team. Right? Then out of 9, you have to choose 5 where you will consider their contribution towards project. Right? So where here first one 72, second one 9, third one 5, like this. Then you think of first person and second person contributes 82% towards the project. First and 3, 87%. First 4, 91%. First 5, 95%. Now you have to take. I am working with 91%. Then remove till keep have 1, 2, 3, 4 in your team and replace 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remove 5, 6, 7, 8. Suppose if you are confident that 87% is okay for me to continue with the team, then keep only 1, 2, 3 in your team, and you can remove the remaining team members for the team. Same like so. Based on the contribution which they have, they contribute to the project depending on the bigger priorities. Right? Here also the same thing. So that is how it works. And some other approaches. IP, right? We will see 1 or 2 comments that we receive. In IPL, we have cap for only 4 international players and 7 domestic players. Can we take this? Yeah, perfectly. Yeah, perfectly. You had 4 out of 9. You want to choose 4 players. Suppose out of 9 you want to choose 4 players. Then prioritize depending on their contribution. So now depending on here, I am saying in terms of percentages actually. If 91% of contribution is okay for me, then I'll say 4 players in the team. Right. or 72% is fine for me, then I will have one player and rest of I'll get from my international players. Yeah, perfect. It's a good example. Yeah. I think we'll break for a minute, then we'll continue the discussion further.